Ever found yourself running out of breath while reciting the Quran? Imagine being able to recite without getting tired and recite lengthy ayat with ease and uninterrupted flow. This is definitely one of the main reasons that can make you enjoy reciting the Quran a lot more. So whether you have been looking for a solution or you haven't given it much thought, the tips and techniques you will learn in this lesson can and will, inshallah, transform your recitation and your relation with the Quran. But before we get started, this lesson assumes that you currently have no medical complaints relating to your respiratory system, like asthma or something like that. Because if that is the case, then seeking medical help should be your first priority. Now, let's get started. There are three major factors that maximize your current lung capacity. So they have to be in order before we get into breathing exercises. If these factors are not in order, then these exercises will not do much, if at all. These three factors are tone, posture, and breathing technique. So let's start with the first one, the tone. Most of your recitation has to be done in your own tone. But what does that mean? And how can we check this? Well, let's say that this represents all the sounds humans can make. This is the highest pitch possible, and this is the lowest. Now, every human can only produce a certain range of sounds. And in the middle of that range is your tone, or safe zone, where you can recite most comfortably and beautifully. And on the edges of that range is the least comfortable and causes the most exhaustion. So when imitating a reciter forces you to go higher or lower than what your vocal range allows, it will cause you to get tired very quickly and have a short breath, because you'll be forcing more air and exerting more effort to produce a sound that you don't normally make. That's why you should always stay in your tone or your comfort zone. So how do you recognize your tone? Well, your right tone is simply the tone that you feel the most comfortable when reciting. I'll recite now as an example in three different tones, and I want you to take a second to think which is my tone. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So which one you think represents my tone? For me, it was the third, because I felt the most comfortable when reciting. You can sometimes go a little higher or lower when reciting, but you always go back to that safe zone and recite the most in it. So try to record yourself producing three different recordings in three tones, like I just did, and this will help you identify where your comfort zone is, and based on it, choose the right tone to recite in it. And also related to this is how loud or quiet you recite. Reciting too quietly or too loudly can also cause that you get tired very quickly. That's why when learning the Quran, the learner must always recite in a moderately loud voice, loud enough that you can lead others in prayer with, not too low that it affects the airflow and pronunciation, and not too loud or screaming that it tires your vocal cords. The second factor is posture, especially in prayer. When you are reciting, your back should be straight, and importantly, the neck should also be in an upright position. If you are reciting while looking up or down, it will affect the airflow through the windpipe, which will tire you much faster and affect how long your breath is. That's why if you observe professional reciters while leading prayer, you will see all of them with their heads in an upright position to allow air to flow through the windpipe without issues. The same thing goes when reciting while sitting. If you are looking down or your neck is in an awkward position, it will affect your performance and how long your breath is. Now the third factor, but the most important one, your breathing technique. And it involves 4 actions that have to be done properly to breathe properly. First is inhaling. Inhaling has to be through the nose, not the mouth or mouth and nose, just through the nasal cavity. This is important because it keeps your vocal folds from drying out with air, which will make your throat itch and get tired very quickly. It is also particularly important if you are leading prayer or memorizing the Quran, since it delivers more oxygen to your blood and brain, which is important for your memory and recalling information. And while it is important to take deep breaths, if you take too deep breaths, it causes the opposite effect, since your lungs become too full and under a lot of pressure, which then causes the air to be pushed out faster than usual. So, inhale deeply through the nose with moderation. The second action is diaphragmatic breathing. So, what is that? And how do we do it? Well, simply put, it means that you use your diaphragm to fill your lungs with air. And to do this, take a deep breath without your shoulders or chest moving up. If you do that correctly, you'll also notice that your stomach is getting bigger or more protruding, which is essentially your diaphragm pushing down against the stomach so it protrudes. So, if your chest and or shoulders are moving up while you breathe, and your stomach is not protruding, you're doing something wrong and you need to adjust to the proper breathing technique. The third action is reciting. When reciting, try to produce your voice from your chest. Now, of course, we know that the chest doesn't produce any sound, but what we want is that when you think of it and you actually try to make your voice come out of your chest, you'll essentially be forcing the diaphragm to push the air out, giving you the sensation as if your voice is actually coming out of your chest, putting minimum pressure on your lungs, which makes you recite for longer without getting tired. Focusing on your throat will, however, put the pressure on your lungs, and you will get tired very quickly. If you're not sure how to do this, then tighten your abdomen muscles, which will help you control your diaphragm and regulate the airflow properly. Finally, when reciting and exhaling, don't recite till your last breath, emptying your lungs completely from air to the point of suffocating. Doing this is a bad practice, since it will exhaust your lungs tremendously, and it doesn't sound good either. Now, if these 3 things, tone, posture, and breathing, are all in order, this should give you your current maximum capacity of your lungs. And from that point, we can work on expanding this capacity by doing some simple exercises. But first, we need to quantify your current capacity to be able to monitor your progress as you go. This is done by reciting the entire of Surah Al-Fatiha in one breath, or for as much as you can recite from it. Remember, tone, posture, and breathing. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. So reciting Al-Fatiha in one breath should, in my opinion, be your goal that you'll be working towards, which I personally think is more than enough to recite longer ayat and basically anything you want. If you can, for example, recite up to ayah 4 or 5, that's good. Do some of the exercises that I will mention now and keep measuring your progress till you reach your goal, inshallah. But if you can already recite it all in one go, but still want to go longer, then you can add, for example, Surah Al-Ikhlas after it, and then train and measure till you get to your goal. So what are the exercises? First exercise is the tartil exercise, and it is done in 3 steps. First, you inhale while counting 4 harakat. Then keep that breath in for 4 more harakat. And then finally, breathe it out through your mouth with a hissing sound in 4 harakat as well. Like that. The first step remains the same, and as you progress, you increase both the keeping the breath in and exhaling, both by 1 harakah each time you progress. But inhaling will always be 4 harakat, and as you progress, you will learn to take more air in the same period of time. This is also the exercise for imams leading others in prayer, because if you take too long to inhale before you start reciting, those praying behind you might think you forgot, which can cause disturbance. So you have to have a long breath without having to take a lot of time to inhale. The second exercise is the balloon exercise. This exercise is basically what it says, blowing balloons, which is a very famous exercise for increasing your lung capacity. It is basically inhaling through the nose with proper breathing, as we learned, and blowing balloons. This method is very effective and can deliver good results in short time, inshallah, if done consistently. The reason why it works is because it trains the muscles responsible for spreading and elevating your diaphragm, allowing your lungs to take in more oxygen during inhalation. By doing this exercise daily, you can steadily increase your lung capacity and amplify your lungs' ability to maintain a sufficient supply of oxygen when reciting the Quran. The third exercise, controlling your makharij for whispering sounds. Whispering sounds like ha, sheen, seen, and sad are a major source for spending a lot of your air when reciting the Quran. Practicing the proper technique of pronouncing these sounds can be a game changer for you to save a lot of air spent improperly on these sounds. For example, if you exaggerate or you are too generous with your ha sound, it will consume most of your air. وَإِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ الرَّحِيمُ. In just 9 words, in a relatively short ayah, by not applying the proper techniques of ha and ha, I was almost unable to finish this short ayah. So monitor your air expenditure on Ham's letters to be able to recite for longer. Fourth exercise. If you have a particularly short breath, you should choose to only elongate the mandatory types of med and skipping the optional med. This will ensure a better experience to encourage you to recite more and practice more, which will result in a better performance, and then later more options will open for you. For example, disconnected med is an optional type of med. Let's have a look at this ayah to see how a single decision you make can affect your recitation. If you choose to only elongate the mandatory med, then you will only elongate in 2 instances in this entire ayah. But elongating everything will require that you elongate 6 cases of med, which would require that you would have considerably longer breath to read the ayah in 1 breath. Finally, here are some tips on proper breathing. Number 1, know that if you have not slept well, you have a full stomach, or you are fatigued, that these factors will impact your performance and how long your breath is. Number 2, if you are leading prayer for the first time and you are stressed or scared of the situation, it is normal to have a short breath. Being worried or scared affects your breath, which will go away after getting used to the situation, inshallah. The third, and in my opinion the most important tip, which is reciting the Quran and practicing it every day, is the best remedy. There is a reason why the majority, if not every single hafiz of the Quran, has a beautiful voice, long enough breath, and a good technique. It is because hifz forces you to practice a lot every day, which overall improves your technique and condition. So, in conclusion, follow the proper practices in reciting and see how much you already are capable of. Then choose one or several exercises to practice them daily. And every time check how much progress you have made, till you get to the point when you can recite the Quran more freely, insha'Allah. Thanks for watching. If you want to start learning the tajweed, then start with this playlist. And also, don't forget to check my latest book about tajweed and download the companion app. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.